Welcome back to the Tripping Off podcast. Quick question. Have you ever sat with a trauma client, done everything right, followed the treatment plan, but something still wasn't reaching them?
Yes. Jesse and I spent our careers working with complex trauma and PTSD, and we kept hitting that same exact wall. That's what led us to hypnotherapy. It's genuinely changed the way we do therapy and the way that we work with our patients and clients.
We built trauma-focused hypnotherapy for people who want better tools for their work.
The course consists of 50 CEUs, fully self-paced, and it's certified with the Department of Health.
It's a protected title, not just another weekend certification course. And we offer group discounts if your team wants to train together. Link is in the description down below. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back to the Tripping Off podcast. I got a special one for you today. Of course, your friendly faces Jesse and Zach, but joining us is Peter Copan, a mental health counselor in the West Palm area, but does virtual counseling, as do many of us, all throughout the state. But Peter hit me up on Discord through our, little trauma-focused hypnotherapy group chat and our server that we've got there. Shout out to that. Links in the description to join. But asking a question that many others have asked: the connection between astrology and hypnotherapy, the subconscious. And so, Peter, I would love it if you had anything else to add and you just take it away with some of the things that you're chewing on in conversations with friends.
Yeah, no, so the reason I reached out was, or I guess what inspired that was there was a moment interacting with my girlfriend. We're doing long distance, and she had just picked me up from the airport, and she had mentioned a conversation she'd had with a friend of hers who said, just beware that Mercury's in retrograde right now. So, and she suggested that. And so we're about to go into a week, spending a week together. And as she said that, relayed that conversation she'd had with her friend, I think inwardly rolled my eyes. I was like, okay, yeah, Mercury's in retrograde. I've never been, I don't know, I won't say, I have I have questions about astrology. It's never something that I've fully embraced. There's some moments where I'm like, oh wow, that is a really interesting parallel or coincidence or intersection, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. But overall, I haven't really embraced it. So I kind of rolled my eyes. But then over the next 24 hours, interacting with her, my girlfriend and I just had a number of moments of miscommunication, which I guess Mercury being in retrograde is it's a warning against, hey, the god, the god of the messenger of the gods is in hiding, and the messages may not get through as well. So just be ready for that. And then over the next 24 hours, I couldn't believe how many miscommunications we did have. So there was a moment of, oh wait, maybe they were right the whole time. And then I thought about some of the interactions that we'd had in the trauma-focused hypnotherapy material, just about the power of suggestions, and wondering okay, could we be miscommunicating because of a current planetary configuration and the way that things are? Maybe. And I'm also wondering, is it possible that just her relaying that conversation that you might be in for some miscommunications over the next however many days or weeks primed our unconsciouses to miscommunicate? So I don't know, it just got me thinking about astrology in general, and are there ways in which astrology leans into the power of suggestion? And if there are other things happening, what those other things might be.
Yeah. Zach, do you have thoughts? I definitely have thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should pause. Where do you stand on this, Peter? As you've chewed on this for a couple of weeks, what's your current thought or question about it? What conclusion have you come to?
Man, I feel like I gotta chuckle because I feel like there are a lot of ways in which I do feel like I am a very suggestible person. I'm very open to suggestions. It doesn't take much in some ways for someone to nudge me towards something, and I find that that's something unconsciously maybe, but also I'm consciously fixated on. Am I primed to I feel like I've been primed to see certain things even if I don't want it to happen. I'm like, all right, Peter, don't miscommunicate. don't miscommunicate. Like that could put me in a position where like all my unconscious is hearing is miscommunicate, miscommunicate, miscommunicate. And it's like, well, so I see the I see how suggestions could play into it, and I think that's kind of where I am right now. But there's also I'm also open to learning more about astrology and learning more about like, because there's also the retrospective aspect as well that a friend of mine brought up, that like sometimes people will read, hey, this week might have been hard for you because, so it's like sort of you're looking back at something rather than being primed to as you're walking into a future situation, where I'm like, okay, that I don't know if that would completely apply or not. So
Mm,
I'm a little agnostic at the moment, I guess is what I'm saying.
fair enough. Fair enough.
That's
Well,
great.
as somebody who certified you and trained you in the use of hypnosis, a graduate of the course, um, you are very suggestible, yes, which is a wonderful thing. I
Yeah,
think
me
a lot
too.
of people can get like negative feelings towards that, and I agree with you, Zach. Like being suggestible is not a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing if you're suggestible and don't realize it. But if you are suggestible and realize it, I think it's the foundation for deep empathy. I think it's really great. So, okay, so that's kind of where you land. What are your thoughts on the whole astrology topic, Zach?
Yeah, I'm so like with a lot of mystical things, uh anti, and love getting into to debates about the subject, love getting into just like I don't know. I pulled back recently, but most of my life I've been like, nope, bullshit, just to start a fight. uh I think recently I've been more sensitive to it because of kind of what you were saying. Um, the or at least alluding to is the useful aspects to it. Um, but I I I mean I haven't seen any research that shows that there is any more of a correlation between where the planets are and any more correlation to our moods and what's going on to the planets than there are our moods and our emotions to suggestibility. The correlation is way stronger when it comes to suggestibility. Um, and so that's how your brain was trying to take it is exactly how my brain has taken it and still likes to take it. Um, but I think uh, my suggestion for how we deal with it is what does the individual want to get out of it?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah,
What do you mean by that?
like
What the individual wants to get out of it?
why are we reading the horoscopes? Well, what's the purpose
Ooh,
of this? And my first reaction to somebody that gives me some sort of fact about where the planets are is going to be, why are you bringing this up? Is it for comfort?
hmm.
Is it for fear? And I think a lot of times people, kind of like what your girlfriend did, will bring it up out of fear. Just from your brief description, it sounds like that was really the point. Is like, oh no, I need to be careful of this because the bad thing could happen.
Hmm.
And if it's for fear, I'm going to immediately dismiss it and say there's nothing to be afraid of. Even if we do miscommunicate this period of time that we have, I think we're good to be able to overcome that, right?
Yeah, I was having a thought inside of my head as we started this conversation. I'm like, well, the stuff about astrology, like that's a really big thing, but what about all the things that people talk about? Well, when it's a full moon, there's more ER visits, and when it's a full moon inside of the inpatient psych ward, you know, things start to get a little bit crazier. And so while you were talking, I'm asking AI and researching because I thought that was a confirmed thing, but as I'm digging deeper into it now, it's also not confirmed. There's been some large scale studies, but they found no consistent relationship. Um, it can also be the same stuff that people talk about with astrology. I mean, there's also been large studies on astrology, and there hasn't been any consistent connection between Mercury in retrograde and poor communication stuff. But I do also know, and maybe this is false and I'm spreading misinformation, but I know that some really big organizations, like the head and the CEO, actually has like an astrologist, like on staff to consult with about like, oh, this is a bad time to release this product. It's Neptune is doing something weird, so if you're releasing a tech product, now is not the right time because it's gonna not work. So there are some things there where they'll consult with like religious leaders or astrologists. It kind of leaves you with the question of like, well, what sense do you make of it? You have thoughts about that, like Zach or Peter?
That's interesting. I mean, I just didn't know it. I didn't know that that was actually what, I mean, I lived in India for a couple of years, and I mean, there would be a lot of CEOs and the heads of companies who would consult astrologers and about matters of like, hey, what's the most auspicious day for us to launch this rocket? What's the most auspicious day for us to start our company? So there'd be some sort of consultation process in India, but I'm just kind of smiling, thinking I didn't realize that was some of that was happening stateside too. So
That's what I've heard. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, and for me, I think it comes back to the why, and it's like if the entire population or the entire company thinks that this is something important, and then we do it on the wrong day, it's going to cause a lot of friction. So
Yeah.
there's the group mindset that plays a fact too, but if we were to take all of the astrology books and I'm stealing this idea from an Instagram reel. If we were to take all of that out of history and just be able to erase it, there's not really anything. I don't believe that the same thing would be reproduced. Like if we took all of the science books and we took all of the mathematics books out of the history, would they reappear? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I think it's based on what we believe and the collective suggestibility too.
Yeah. My opinion is that it's like a false marker. I think people look to astrology and the moon to give an explanation for things that actually has a different explanation. Maybe I could craft some kind of like parallel or metaphor for it, but what I'm specifically talking about is we do know that the amount of sun a person has affects their mood, right?
Sure.
And that's why we get in the wintertime, people get depressed, right? Or if somebody lives in a cold and dreary climate where there's not a lot of sun, they also have the tendency to be more depressed or more anxious. You put them in a nice, warm, tropical climate, their mood tends to improve. And so we know that. It would make sense to me that we might blame the stars or the planets for doing something that's actually just like a weather function. We also know that human beings go through cycles and phases with the seasons. We get a little bit more lethargic and slow during wintertime because, just evolutionary wise or survival wise, we're trying to conserve our energy during times of less resources. And then springtime comes around, we start to get happy and bubbly again. Like, oh, let's start that project. Let's like go on this adventure, right? Because now is a great time to kind of start that. Summertime, hot, heavy, a lot of energy inside the body. Now's the time to go like hunt and gather to prepare again for the fall and the winter. I could see why we might blame the stars and the planets for doing that, when I think it's just we are still creatures who are pretty dependent upon our physical environment. There's also some rhythms inside of us, right? Like, the monthly rhythm of cycles, the masculine rhythm of, waking in the morning and testosterone levels peak and then they fall off. And so I think there's some cycles that are natural to us as creatures that we are blaming on stars and planets that I think have explanation. I mean, I don't think this would have been created just out of nothing. There must have been something that sparked it, but I think we're looking to the wrong thing to explain it when it could be better explained by some other stuff. I think that's where I land on it. Thoughts, Zach, maybe?
I mean, I just had a question for Peter, just to kind of affirm that. Is like, how would your communication be, Peter, if you were when she said that, your response was, "Nope, that's bullshit. Try again."
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Even sort of you playing it out a few minutes ago, it was interesting to sort of hear how, like, to notice my body as you were saying, like we have nothing to be afraid of. Whatever comes up, I'm like laughing at my earbud that doesn't want to stay in. But
It's Jupiter.
it's Jupiter. Jupiter's messing with me again. I'm just like, I'm noticing like how my body responded. Again, very suggestible to like sort of you saying like, we have nothing to be afraid of and we'll work through anything. Like we'll be able to work through anything. And I felt like tension release from my shoulders. And so for me, this is obviously very anecdotal and just one little slice, but I'm like, for me, that suggests, if you will, to me that like I just am very suggestible. And I think in that moment, I think I did do my best to be like, hey, like, and if we have miscommunications, we'll figure it out. But there was maybe something fearful in me that had already been planted before that, where maybe I didn't pull the full weed up. Um, but yeah, there is part of me that wonders, like, maybe that could have been different, and it makes me wonder, just as I navigating intimate relationships, like, like, are there ways I'm yielding to suggestions that do promote miscommunication? And like, what does it look like to promote the suggestions, create the suggestions that would allow us to be able to communicate or effectively, or if there is a miscommunication, to be able to work through it in a way that's like kind and meaningful.
Yeah, and I'll share one of those in my personal life that I was quite literally just dealing with this weekend. Think about this suggestion: miscommunication, then a response of my wife going in me pointing out the miscommunication and like, hey, like that wasn't clear, and like, look at this. Can you say it this way so that I know exactly what you're talking about? The immediate response, oh God, I hate my ADHD. Why do I have to be so ADHD? And I was like, whoa. Let's hold on a second. And but the suggestion is so powerful, and especially with like social media, with the just the collective perspective. So kind of going back to the metaphor of like, well, what do the people believe? The collective perspective on ADHD is like, these are the problems that you have to deal with if you have ADHD. And like the innate suggestion, so much of this, including like which planet is negative because it's there to protect. So you need to understand these things in order for you to be safe.
Ooh.
And that's a suggestion that comes across so often, is like, well, be careful. This bad thing could happen if you're not aware of this. Well, then I gotta pay attention. I gotta be aware. Oh no. Maybe it's me being a little bit too dramatic, but even the suggestion of I hate that I am ADHD is a statement of the negative suggestion, rather than, yeah, we can deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're really talking about the light and shadow side of things, right? Like, ADHD is a label. It's a topic. There's pros and cons, right? What are you going to focus on? It's like, I hate that I'm so ADHD. I can't do this, or this is harder for me. It's like, it's not wrong, but it's only half the picture. I mean, you can also do this better, and you're more likely to do this. And, we know from the research that a lot of CEOs tend to have ADHD because they're able to manage many tasks all at the same time. So what do you focus on? What you focus on is what you'll draw nearer to. I mean, that's the basic principle of hypnosis. If I repeat, you're strong and confident, you're strong and confident when you're in a relaxed and receptive state, you're going to have the suggestion and start to feel more strong and confident, because here's a person connecting with you belly button to belly button saying, you are strong and confident. Look at what you did. Look at how you overcame that. And I'm putting your mind on the things you want to draw closer towards. It makes me think about, I share this with clients all the time. When you ride a motorcycle, there's something called target fixation. And it's what causes most crashes in new riders. You're going around a corner and you haven't gone around many corners, and you see the barrier, the wall right there. People naturally are like, oh my gosh, I'm coming in kind of fast and there's the wall. So they look at the wall. Well, if you've ever ridden a bicycle, you know this. Whatever you're looking at is kind of what you drift towards. And so people crash their motorcycles because they're looking at the obstacle, not the direction on the road that they want to go. If you just turn your gaze, you follow right through the corner and you're fine. So I think astrology, the moon, is much more about what is your focus than it is an actual predictor of today's screwed for you. You're going to have a bad day. I don't know if I believe in that. What do you think, Peter?
Or even watch out for that thing that might screw you over today. Like, it is still that's the barrier. Like in that metaphor of the, like coming around the curve, I feel like in some ways, Mercury in retrograde feels like that guardrail that you're trying to not hit, but that's all you can look at. So yeah, I mean, was I looking at it? Was my unconscious looking at it just per the suggestion? Like, I mean, to me, whatever else might have been happening, like that makes a lot of sense to me. That, yeah, just how suggestible I can be to those things, and then feeling like, and also like, was this abnormal? Was this an abnormal number of miscommunications that we were having? Or was it just like, oh, I happen to be noticing it more because of that suggestion? I hope it was more than normal, but maybe it was just like, maybe it's just because that was what was highlighted for me. And I'm like, oh, I have miscommunication on my brain. I have that's the subject that I have on my brain. And so no, now that's like, those are the things that are lighting up for me in my experience.
Yeah, and even go back to the power of suggestibility when we're saying like something is a thing, and then we have the confirmation bias. Ask any nurse in the emergency department whether or not the full moon brings more people in, and they will consistently tell you yes. But when you actually look at the stats, it's not true.
Oh, but everyone. I've never talked to a nurse who didn't tell me, oh, full moon tonight's going to be a rough one at the ER. And I'm like, well, it's going to be now, because that was the suggestion you gave yourself.
Like, at what point is it just a cultural suggestion that everyone's kind of bought into?
That's it. But think about it. There is a significant portion of the population that believes in astrology, which is a strong cultural suggestion. And so whether I believe in astrology or not, my life is going to be influenced by astrology, because there's a significant portion of the population that does believe in it who's having a shitty day because they believe in astrology. So now I got to deal with it. Isn't that interesting? I just think that's fascinating. It's like, I think a cool study would be, I wonder if they could track the number of mistakes or the efficacy or the kindness of nurses who believe in astrology based on the moon. Because it's probably much more of a I mean, hey, if anyone's out there trying to do their PhD study, you give me a call. I'd love to help you on it. That would be a cool one to study. Nurses or medical professionals. I feel like a lot of nurses who believe in astrology, especially the moon. And then you could it's a simple track. I mean, they track all that stuff in the hospital already. That'd be so interesting to see the changes in the type of care that's given, not the number of injuries.
Interesting.
Right?
I'm even wondering, like, I mean, just if we were to bring this into a clinical context, what are the ways that, I mean, if a significant, portion of the population is into astrology, what are the ways in which people's love of astrology can be used for their benefit in a clinical setting, in sessions.
Oh, I mean, I've got thoughts, but Zach, you're shaking your head. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. That answering that question for myself is the reason why I've gotten so much softer and less combative about astrology, is because clients coming in saying something regarding astrology, and then me saying, instead of just immediately responding negatively to how it's bullshit and that's stupid and there's no evidence, which just puts up the walls, is a response of kindness and softness and gentleness that then makes it so that whatever the point is that they're coming up with becomes something for their benefit rather than a logical conflict.
You know, Zach and I talk about this a lot in the course for trauma-focused hypnotherapy, but how we have different approaches to the same topics, oftentimes one being more masculine, one being more feminine. And so my approach is to just kind of be like, okay, Mercury retrograde, and just more maybe in a feminine sort of energy, ask, what does that mean to you? And so like I'm thinking about being Peter, and like, oh, just as a heads up, Mercury's in retrograde. Be like, oh, interesting. You know, can you tell me more about that? Like, what does that mean? And like, oh, well, it's communication problems. Like, I don't know if I like that suggestion. And correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I had to tell this to my girlfriend. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, I think one of the things about astrology is there's always balance in the universe. Isn't that right? So I'm getting a yes set here, right? Isn't that right? Yes. You know, there's always a balance because gravitational pull's got to be equal and things have to stay in alignment. Yes. There's another yes set. I was like, well, so if Mercury's a retrograde, it makes me wonder what the positivity of that is. You know, I think that everything has cycles. And if there is one suggestion about astrology that I do really appreciate, it's that there's a different animal and a different character and a different, you know, sign for each of these phases. Well, how beautiful for me as a knucklehead who often gets like way too fixated on one thing to have this built-in system that helps me cycle through. There's times of creation, times of introspection, times of patience and slowness to evaluate the system. And so you're saying Mercury's in retrograde, that's about communication. That's beautiful. I would love to work on our communication better and bring into awareness the communication struggles that we have that we might just be ignoring because we didn't realize it. I welcome that opportunity to connect with you more intimately that way. That's beautiful. And so we took the thing, validated it, and then be like, but everything has like a positive side too. What great awareness you have of the miscommunications that may have been ignored up until this point because she said Mercury's in retrograde. I love that. I don't know. How does that fit with you? How does that make your body feel, Peter? Maybe worse, maybe better. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't notice any particular shift in or sensation, but it's just, I think there's it makes me smile. It's just that sense of, I don't know, that hyperfixation that I sometimes feel on like that thing that's been suggested, whether it's to go towards it or to avoid it. I think it just makes me feel like, I don't know, I smile at the sense of balance
Yeah.
that it can invite.
And if I can just add to that, like, I think that this is one of the reasons why I like people closest to me understanding things about suggestibility and hypnosis, because there's so many times where I'm accepting of a suggestion in the moment because it comes with emotional connection. It comes sometimes with logic. It comes with some sort of fixation that I'm already in. And then having people that maybe don't have those same fixations around me that can point out those fixations, those suggestions, I think it's really, really helpful. And so even people that like are in my life that haven't taken the course, I will still educate them about like what a suggestion is. And then go back and forth with them about suggestions. Another good example even was last night. My wife was like, I love you so much that because you love me in spite of this thing. And I was like, no. And as soon as I said that, she just kind of like pulled back, and she was just like, "Wow, what a suggestion to give to myself." And
Right?
yeah, because I was just like, no. But she understands the suggestions, and then as soon as I said it like that, I guess I had already, going back to some other course vocabulary, is uh the hypnotic anchor. And so I think that I didn't realize this, but I put myself in a trance on the subject of, when I say no like that, it's because I'm pointing out a suggestion that I don't want to accept. And she unconsciously recognized that I had used that same anchor that I had used before that I didn't even know about, and then was immediately switched to, what a suggestion to give to myself. And so for anybody that's watching this or listening to this, is I would encourage you to set up those, when with you in your relationships, setting up those hypnotic anchors to point out the suggestions that are being made, whether or not it's true or you believe that the thing to be true. Like with astrology, is as soon as it comes up, going straight to, what suggestions am I giving to myself, whether it's true or not. But the same thing about a diagnosis, ADHD, how I am, using the singular instead of talking about a part of me, exaggerated language, like, I don't know why you always have to do this.
Oof.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And setting up those anchors to point out the suggestion, so then you can get to this, why the suggestion was there. And if there is a negative suggestion like that, it's probably because of fear.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Tirade over.
This has been a lot of fun. I'm glad you brought up this topic, Peter. I did a bunch of research in preparation for this topic, so if anyone wants the research that I did, I mean, we didn't even cover the Barnum effect, which is about like why people believe in astrology. Maybe that's a second podcast episode. Also, the research that's often quoted but misquoted about how people who believe in astrology are statistically more likely to be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Very interesting study, which I'm happy to send to anybody. So if any of that's interesting to you, either join the link to the Discord and send me a DM, or you can email us, traumafocusedhypnotherapy@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to send that to you. But Peter, thanks for the fascinating topic. Hope to have you on again soon. And maybe we can all think to ourselves, well, what is the suggestion that I'm taking from this? And maybe I want to give myself a different one. Each and every one of you have that power. And I think that's a beautiful thing to reclaim. With that, catch you next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you guys.